Emma Carter had never felt so awake at a time when the entire neighborhood slept. The street outside her Denver townhouse was quiet. The kind of quiet that made every small sound feel louder, her breathing, her heartbeat, even the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. It was almost 3 in the morning, and though she had tried everything, warm tea, shower, even lying still with her eyes shut for nearly an hour, her mind refused to rest. Something in her chest felt unsettled, as if her heart kept searching for something she couldn't name. She wasn't afraid, and she wasn't restless because of noise. It was the silence that troubled her, a silence that carried every memory she tried to outrun. Moving to Denver had been her fresh start. But instead of the excitement she expected, she found herself drowning in long, quiet nights that stretched too wide. She missed laughter. She missed soft conversation. She missed the feeling of someone simply being there. Tonight felt worse than usual. Her thoughts ran faster than she could catch them about her failed marriage, about the loneliness she hid from her family back in Ohio, about the empty house that never felt like a home. Her mind kept drifting back to the neighbors she had grown unexpectedly close to since moving here, Lucas and Mia Thompson. They lived next door, both warm, funny, and comfortable to be around. The kind of people who made kindness look effortless. But she convinced herself it was too late to think about anyone. She needed sleep. She needed silence. She needed something she couldn't define. And then a knock came at the door. Not loud. Not urgent. Just a soft, deliberate tap enough to break the silence completely. Emma sat up quickly, her heart skipping. For a second, she wondered if she imagined it. But then it came again, a gentle, familiar rhythm that somehow made her pulse settle rather than race. She pulled her robe around herself and padded quietly to the door, unsure why she felt more drawn to it than cautious. She peeked through the peephole and saw 2 familiar figures on her porch, close together in the pale glow of the street lamp. Lucas and Mia. Of all people to show up at nearly 3 in the morning. They were the only ones who did not worry her. If anything, they brought a strange sense of relief. Emma opened the door halfway. "Is everything okay?" Lucas gave a small smile, the kind that carried both concern and reassurance. "We should be asking you that. Your lights are still on." Mia's voice was gentler. "We were taking a walk. We saw the light and thought maybe you weren't asleep yet." Emma wasn't sure why she felt emotional at that. Maybe because no one had checked on her like that in a long time. She hesitated only for a moment before stepping aside. "You can come in if you want." They entered with quiet footsteps, bringing in the crisp winter air with them. Emma closed the door behind them and tried to brush away the embarrassment of looking like someone who hadn't slept in days. "You couldn't sleep?" Mia asked softly. Emma shook her head. "Not even close." Lucas glanced around the dim living room, taking in the half-finished mug of tea and the blanket thrown over the couch. "Long night?" She almost laughed at the understatement. "Long month." They didn't try to offer pity. They didn't flood her with questions. They simply sat with her, one on the couch, the other in the chair across from her, like people who understood that sometimes company mattered more than answers. Emma sat on the opposite end of the couch, hugging a pillow loosely. "I don't even know why I'm awake. It's like my mind won't turn off." "Those nights happen," Mia said. "Especially when life feels heavier than usual." Lucas added, "And you've had a lot happening the past few months. It makes sense you'd be overwhelmed." Emma nodded. She wasn't used to someone acknowledging her feelings so plainly. Most people told her to relax or move on. But the Thompsons didn't rush her. They let her speak if she wanted and let silence exist if she DI'd single quotes. After a few moments, she admitted, "I thought moving here would make me feel different, stronger. But I just feel alone." Mia reached out and touched her arm with quiet understanding. "You don't have to pretend with us." That simple sentence felt like a crack in the wall Emma had built around herself. She didn't want to cry, but her voice softened in a way that felt vulnerable. "I didn't think anyone noticed." "We notice," Lucas said gently. "You're strong, Emma. But strong people get lonely too." The room felt warmer suddenly. Not from the heater, but from the presence of two people who genuinely seemed to care. Emma didn't know how long they talked, but time began to blur. She found herself opening up more than she expected about her marriage ending, about leaving Ohio with nothing but determination, about the fear of starting over at 34 in a city where no one knew her. Mia listened with deep empathy, occasionally nodding or offering soft words. Lucas asked careful questions, not intrusive ones, but ones that showed he was paying attention. Emma felt something inside her unwind, something she had held tight for too long. At one point, she admitted, "Sometimes I feel invisible, like I could disappear and no one would notice." Lucas leaned forward slightly. We'd noticed the sincerity in his voice startled her. She felt her cheeks warm, but not in the way that embarrassed her more. Like a reminder, she was still human, still someone who mattered. The room settled into a comfortable stillness after that. Not awkward, not heavy, just peaceful. Emma glanced between them and saw something in their expressions she couldn't name, something gentle, something close, something that made her heart tighten with unexpected emotion. Lucas exchanged a small look with Mia, as though asking for silent permission. And then he turned back to Emma with a careful expression. "Emma," he said, his voice softer than before, "there's something we've been meaning to talk to you about." Emma stiffened slightly. "About what?" Mia took a quiet breath. "It's nothing bad. It's just something we've been feeling." Emma felt the tension rise in her chest, not fear, but anticipation. Something about their tone made the room feel suddenly smaller. Lucas continued, "You've become important to us. More than just the neighbor we say hi to. We didn't expect it, but it happened." Emma blinked, trying to make sense of his words. "Important? How?" Mia offered a small, warm smile. "We care about you, Emma. Really care. And we didn't want to keep pretending we don't." Emma's breath caught for a moment. She wasn't used to anyone saying things like that, not since her marriage fell apart, not since her life changed. Part of her wanted to pull back to protect herself. Another part leaned toward their honesty like warmth on a cold night. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a sudden sound thundered through the quiet street outside. A car door slammed hard. It wasn't loud enough to be dangerous, but it was unexpected sharp, echoing off the houses in the still night. Emma flinched slightly and turned, her head toward the window. Lucas and Mia froze too, breaking the emotional moment hanging between them. For a long second, the room felt suspended. The unspoken words, the confession, the truth they had begun to uncover, it all hovered in the air without resolution. Lucas finally exhaled and leaned back. "We should wait a second." But Emma couldn't ignore the shift in the room. Something had cracked open, and something else had interrupted it. She looked at them, both quiet, both thoughtful, both watching her with eyes full of emotions she wasn't ready to name. Whatever they wanted to say, whatever they were building toward, it wasn't finished, not even close. The moment was still there, waiting, just like the rest of the night. And that was how the longest, quietest night of her life turned into the night she let her neighbors in on, realized she wasn't as alone as she thought. Emma Carter felt her heart thump harder than she expected. The car door outside had slammed, but it had done more than break the night's silence. It had shattered the fragile moment she shared with Lucas and Mia. For a split second, she thought maybe she had imagined the warmth she felt earlier, the connection, the trust slowly building between them. But when she looked at Lucas's calm face and Mia's quiet, concerned eyes, she realized it hadn't been imagination. They were here, and they weren't leaving until she felt safe. The house had grown colder now that her pulse raced. Yet the living room seemed warmer than ever. Lucas cleared his throat softly, shifting the tension back into words. "Emma, we wanted to be honest with you tonight. Even if it feels sudden, it's important." Emma hugged her knees, unsure if she was ready. "About what?" she whispered, though she already sensed the answer. Her heart had been telling her for a long time that something was about to change. Mia took a careful breath and said, "About how much you mattered to us. We didn't plan to say it tonight, But when we saw your light on, we realized we couldn't hold it back any longer." Emma's chest tightened. Mattered to them? More than just a neighbor? Her mind raced with disbelief and something else, something she had buried for months, maybe years. Longing, the kind of longing that didn't go away. No matter how much you tried to fill your life with routine. Lucas leaned forward slightly, his voice steady and honest. "We care about you, Emma. Not in a casual way. We see you. Your kindness, your humor, the way you keep going even when things are hard. We notice it all. And it makes us care more than we expected." Emma felt her throat tighten. She had lived through loneliness, through nights when she thought no one would see her struggle, and now these two people were telling her that she was seen. Truly seen. It was a strange, overwhelming sensation. Her heart thumped against her ribs like it was trying to escape. I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She wanted to speak, to tell them something back, but words failed her. She wasn't used to being the center of such genuine attention. "You don't have to say anything," Mia said softly, reaching out to touch Emma's hand lightly. The warmth of the gesture made Emma shiver. "We just want you to know you're not alone tonight. Or ever if you don't want to be." Emma exhaled slowly. Her mind kept flashing through memories of the months since her divorce. The nights she cried alone. The days she forced herself to smile at coworkers and strangers while her heart ached in silence. She thought she had forgotten what it felt like to be cared for like this. But here they were, Lucas and Mia, offering something she had almost stopped believing in: companionship without expectation, affection without pressure, trust without judgment. She felt herself leaning slightly toward them, not out of desire, but out of the need to feel connected. Lucas noticed and gave a small, encouraging nod. Mia smiled gently, squeezing her hand. The room no longer felt cold. The world outside no longer seemed intimidating. It was just them. And maybe, just maybe, it could be enough for now. Emma shifted, her voice breaking slightly. I don't want to be alone tonight." Lucas and Mia exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them. Then Lucas nodded. "Then we'll stay. We're right here." And so they did. Not in a dramatic movie-like gesture, but in quiet, deliberate presence. The kind that says, "We see you. We care. We won't let you fall apart alone." Emma had almost forgotten what it felt like to feel safe and understood. But the Thompsons made her remember. They started talking about lighter things first, letting the intensity of their earlier confessions settle. Weekend plans, funny stories from work, the little annoyances of life, everything seemed more vivid when shared. Emma laughed softly at one of Lucas's jokes, a sound she hadn't heard herself make in weeks. Mia chimed in, teasing gently, and the atmosphere softened even more. The night was no longer heavy. It was alive. After a while, the conversation drifted to the past. Lucas shared a memory of his college days, an awkward adventure that had ended in laughter and minor embarrassment. Mia told a story about a friend she hadn't seen in years, but still thought about often. Emma found herself listening intently, feeling a part of their lives. Feeling like she belonged somewhere, even if only for this night. And then the moment came, the quiet pause that demanded honesty. Lucas looked at Emma, his expression sincere and open. "Emma, I know this might feel sudden, and I don't want to rush you. But there's something I need to say. We've both felt it for a while now, but it's easier to avoid the truth than to confront it. But tonight, it feels like the right time." Emma's stomach flipped. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, threatening to give away all the composure she had left. Okay," she whispered. "I'll listen." Mia's eyes were steady, filled with quiet reassurance. "We're not asking for anything from you. We just want you to understand how much you matter, how important your presence is to us. And if you feel even a fraction of what we feel, that's okay. But if not, that's okay too." Emma's hands gripped the pillow in her lap. She felt the weight of truth pressing down on her, the honesty in the room creating something almost tangible. She wanted to speak, to say something profound, but the words felt too heavy. Instead, she let herself simply breathe, absorbing their presence, their care, their sincerity. Lucas leaned closer slightly, careful not to crowd her, and said softly, "We care about you. Emma, you're not alone anymore. Even if it's just tonight. Even if it's just this moment you have us." Emma felt tears prick at her eyes. Not the kind of tears that demand explanation, but the kind that arrive quietly when the heart realizes it has been understood. Thank you," she murmured. "I didn't think anyone really cared like this." Mia reached over and brushed a strand of hair from Emma's face. "We do, and we will, as long as you let us." The vulnerability in the room was almost overwhelming. Emma had spent so much time protecting herself from disappointment, from heartbreak, from loneliness. And now, here were two people offering her something simple, yet profound: genuine connection, companionship, and the courage to feel again. Hours passed, though Emma barely noticed. They stayed close, speaking in quiet tones, sharing fragments of their lives, their hopes, their fears. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic confessions of love. Only human moments, simple and honest, building trust, building warmth. Building the subtle beginnings of something deeper. Emma felt a shift inside her. For the first time in months, maybe years, she allowed herself to relax fully. Her body stopped holding tension she hadn't realized she had carried. Her mind stopped racing. She even allowed herself to smile, not out of politeness or habit, but from something real, something that felt like hope, as the first hints of dawn crept through the blinds. The city still asleep, Emma realized she had spent the night differently than she had imagined. She had opened her door, literally and figuratively, and in doing so, she had invited something unexpected into her life: human connection, warmth, and the comfort of being seen. She leaned back against the couch, her head near Mia's shoulder, Lucas sitting just close enough to make her feel safe, yet never imposing. She felt a quiet, unspoken promise in the room, that no matter what happened next, she was not entirely alone. That there were people who cared enough to stay when it mattered most. People who saw her not the version she showed to the world, but the real her. Fragile and strong at the same time. Emma Lucas whispered, as if reading her thoughts, "You don't have to go through life alone anymore." She closed her eyes and let the words settle. Let the warmth, the care, and the presence of Lucas and Mia wrap around her like a blanket. She let herself believe them just a little. Just enough to feel safe. Just enough to know that maybe, after so many long nights, there was someone willing to share the quiet moments with her. To share the hard moments. To be there without asking for anything in return. And in that small, simple realization, Emma discovered something she hadn't known she needed: trust, intimacy, and the courage to allow herself to feel again. She had spent months fighting the ache of solitude, pushing herself to survive the nights alone. But tonight, she had let someone in, and in doing so, she had allowed herself to live fully in the moment for the first time in years. The night outside remained quiet, but the room inside was full of unspoken promises, quiet laughter, soft warmth, and the beginnings of something that might grow into something beautiful. And for Emma, that was enough. For now, it was more than enough. As the first pale light of morning seeped into the room, Emma realized she hadn't been awake all night to fight the darkness. She had been awake to find a spark in the dark. A spark in the form of Lucas and Maya neighbors' friends, and maybe something more. She didn't know what the future held, and she didn't need to. Tonight had already given her a gift she hadn't known she was missing: the simple, undeniable truth that she was not alone. And for the first time in a very long time, Emma allowed herself to drift into sleep, cradled not just by blankets, but by presence, care, and the gentle warmth of human connection.